brands across the exhibits, events, retail, and EBC environments. So I'd like to welcome them up to here to our stage for a special presentation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. An epic moment with dates shifting. What's going to happen when you can enjoy your Thanksgiving turkey and not worry about what's going on the floor? So, very exciting time. We appreciate the time, and we're going to spend the next 25 minutes or so talking through insights and trends that we see. We also thought it'd be helpful to bring in examples from other shows and other places to give some inspiration to everyone. And at the end, and I just got to say, on our behalf, really appreciate this partnership with RSNA, our ability to help enhance the experience for everyone involved. At the end, you'll see some QR codes to the research. So Freeman produces research every quarter, and we have a QR code that you can download the latest report. We want to give you some highlights from the. So if you want to go to the first, and we just flip to the next slide. So first thing, and just a couple of trend slides here. It's been fairly well recognized that we're seeing a shift. What's really interesting is the accelerating pace of the shift of boomers retiring and Gen Z. So about a year ago, this 21% of Gen Z would have been 16%. That's how fast things are moving with the boomers, and the boomers were about 16, 17% a year ago. So we're seeing this accelerating pace of boomers retiring and Gen Z, millennials becoming more present. And I don't want to put anybody in an uncomfortable position, but before we say the young folks, millennials, older millennials, 43, 44 years old. So they're right in that key frame of really having the budget and the abilities to determine when and how they're going to spend time at meetings and in conferences. We go to the next slide. Over the next couple of years, this is going to be the primary audience. 75% of folks coming to events, and this is Bureau of Labor Statistics. So this is not the events industry per se, but it's going to be a pretty good indicator. And what we're seeing is the shift today on how we approach, how we plan, and how we manage engagement with different attendees. Boom, there's Smiley. Now, who are now Gens? As I mentioned, the oldest millennials are 46 years old. The Gen Z, 23 years old. So you can see that range. We're hearing about Gen Alpha, so we're already hearing a little bit of talk about what is Gen Alpha all about. They've not been defined. But when it comes to millennials and Gen Z, and there's probably no big shocker here. What's really interesting is this is the insights you see here come from 1 million different respondents who are event attendees, conferences, meetings, trade shows, and forward events. So one, digitally native. They think digital first. That doesn't just mean mobile app, it also means the messaging, engagement, they're comfortable with technology. 2, transparent value. They think of every minute, every day, every interaction in terms of how does it advance my skills, how does it advance my connections, and how does it advance the ability to embrace innovative practices. We'll touch on that as we go through this. Socially conscious, they're expecting that we're going to embrace the right values, the right practices across all of our different touch points at events. And then authenticity, they really want to have that broader, deeper connection. These are 2 generations affected by 2 major events. Obviously, Gen Z entering the workforce during acute COVID, and then millennials during the great economic downturn in 2008. They are considered delayed generations in almost every respect. And I say that in part because they're looking to accelerate their experience when they go to meetings and conferences. That is our collective opportunity. So having thought about that, and then in our experience, our research goes back about 60 years. We took 35 years of research, analyzed it. Why do people go to events? What are their key priorities? And we settled on this, what we call the excellence framework. 4 key pillars: experience, learning, networking, and commerce. So for many years, we've been doing exhibit and show surveys. About 3 years ago, we shifted all of our research into what is the attendee mindset when it comes to this excellence framework. And over the last year, we've been doing deep dives into commerce, networking, and experience. And we're going to give you some of those highlights. For those of you interested, we're launching a 2-part learning study next year. And so we're recruiting folks to participate. It's a syndicated survey where people can participate at no cost to get feedback about their own organizations, their own communities. But just to give you kind of insights on what we're hearing, these are now event goers, including we've got some call outs on healthcare specific to give you insight on the mindset of the next gen attendee. So the first trend or the first factor is around experience. So a lot of people talk about experience as these peak wow moments. And the key thing about peak moments, and by the way, for healthcare, it's about 80% of people who are going to come back to an event or engage with an exhibitor if they have a relevant peak moment. What do I mean by a relevant peak moment? These peak moments are really tied to their objectives. Different attendees come in with different mindsets. Some want to learn, some want to connect, some want to have that more hands-on experience. So whatever we do, it's really expounding on and broadening, deepening that experience, more so than necessarily some of the, I'll call it the fireworks that sometimes happen to the event. So how do we extend and really reinforce some of their learning objectives or their meeting objectives? We go next slide. Now, when we ask folks, what is the definition of a peak moment? You can see on the left-hand side some of the verbatims. One of the things I do want to reinforce, particularly with this first quote, around seeing new solutions action, connecting innovation with real-world application, is just this sense of innovative technology, hands-on feedback are really critical. And you can see on the right-hand side, building those lasting vendor relationships, it really points to this idea of doing more so than seeing or talking, and elevating their skills and making those skills practical. We always talk about kind of practical for Monday morning, so they can really elevate their role and impact the practice. I'm just going to give you some applications into some other different environments, different needs.
Thank you. So I'll talk a little bit about our relationship with Google. We started working with Google a long time ago, since about 2010. I think our first booth for Google was literally a 10 by 20, and we've grown with that over the years. This is an example of one of the more recent opportunities that we did for Google at CES. This was roughly an 80 by 100 space that we built custom out in the parking lot at CES in Vegas. And the goal of this experience was to bring visitors in to learn about the world of Google AI on Android. So that was the overall challenge, is how do we bring that story to life within this compelling experience, but how do we weave that into a journey throughout all the different experiences within it. So our solution was we created 15 different branded vignettes that connected different aspects of Android AI through different experiences that touched on the different products within their ecosystem. Some examples of that you can see here, we created a bug droid experience that you could walk up and you could create your own digital bug droid that was part of an overall experience with a gallery and so on, and then you could share that to social. Some other experiences, there was a connected home environment where you could, via voice activation, it could send music to different rooms throughout the house. There was also a Android Wear experience for a watch where, via voice activation, you could control temperature, lighting at home, and things like that. So again, when we look to create experiences, building on what David mentioned, it's really about an ecosystem experience that creates these different touch points to create a holistic environment.
Second trend, hands-on and interactivity. So this is an area we really try to dive into and understand what do people mean by interactive. Next slide. So you can see some of the quotes here around hands-on demonstrations, ability to mingle. We're going to talk about subject matter experts as well. I think the key here is, again, elevating their skills, using new technology. It's interactivity. It could either be a demonstration where they can listen, learn, try and get feedback, or it's getting immersed in that experience. But it's really about elevating their abilities and their familiarity. Whether they're a decision maker or they might just be a user, an analyst, it's making sure they understand the capabilities and how to optimize their impact. For the left side. The other part of this is how important it is to have that interactive experience to create advocates. So you can see 96, 95% of folks are saying, listen, it's easy to advocate for a purchase, easy to determine if the product or service is a fit for me. But by the way, there's another flip side of this, which is 2/3 of people, if they don't have immersive experience, are going to prioritize other vendors, other solutions at an event. So it's both a positive and a negative. There's a positive impact, but there's also some risk. Go to the next slide.
So this is another great example of a space that we did at CES. I don't know if you're familiar with Oshkosh. They are a large equipment supplier, manufacturer. So ambulances, delivery trucks, all sorts of different equipment, which I think is interesting. It's an interesting connection to this show where we're featuring large medical equipment and so on. So very similar challenge, if you will, of how do we create an experience at CES that would, again, tie all these different products and offerings together. This was the first time that Oshkosh had been at CES, so again, we're introducing them to this audience, which was another kind of key challenge that we wanted to overcome. So part of the solution is that we developed these themed experiences that created different zones within the environment. That really showcased different innovations of Oshkosh via very hands-on experiences using digital technology to create those environments. You can see the example on the upper right-hand that's an image on this slide. We created this really awesome experience where using Oshkosh's logo, we actually replicated their port environment. And then through those different screens, you could then experience and manipulate the media that happened in the model and so on to talk about the different aspects of the equipment that they create within an airport environment. And then just some other examples here where we use large-scale media, which of course is happening here at the show as well, to tell really broad stories within the space, create a larger digital environment that really provides kind of a backdrop for the experience.
So we just call out, in addition to that, Radiology Reimagined with 5104 that RSNA has produced, combines that interactivity, real-time demo, and then the daily briefings at noon, which is much about information that are about networking between the attendees. So our last trend here is around enabling commerce. And so here, for the next slide, is really about expertise. So this is probably one of the more interesting findings we've had. For a long time, many people have had a lot of sales reps in the business, and there's always a role for sales reps. But what attendees really want to hear from are subject matter experts. And I would just lean into bringing those experts. They're not necessarily from R&D or operations or sit there all across the organization. But we hear time and time again from attendees, they don't want to be talked to or marketed. I really want to build a deeper dialogue with the folks who are designing, producing, and maintaining either the equipment, the technology, the relationship. And so we're really emphasizing that importance of positioning your subject matter experts right in the forefront of that attendee journey or experience, and making sure they are available at all meetings, large or small, and also complementing that with the other relationship-based reps that attend the events. So this has been a big key element, and I think it's more than just hearing the subject matter experts, it's building that connection for further dialogue. One more thing. When we contrast the exhibitors against the attendee perspectives, the attendees really want to speak with those subject matter experts. Exhibitors are tending to move faster into how can I scan you, how can I, register that lead. So I just want to emphasize that you're going to get more mileage on building that subject expertise relationship in addition to the scans that are more historical. And happy to talk with anybody about it's not to diminish the rep, it's to complement the experience of the attendee.
This last experience that I'll talk about is one that we created for Salesforce. So when we talk about SMEs, theater experiences, I'm sure we've all seen those on the trade show floor, and they can get a little long in the tooth, if I'm being honest. So what the challenge was here from Salesforce is how do we take that concept of SMEs, create a theater environment, but do so in a way that's experiential throughout. So how do we link that into a bit of narrative, a bit of conversation? So we created this engaging game show with Salesforce. From a creative perspective, we helped develop the overall narrative, questions, so on, the overall experience. But it wasn't just a game show. When you actually went through the overall environment, there were other experiences throughout the booth. So you would go through the game show experience as you would imagine, you had other touch points and so on. But then from there were other experiences within the environment that would reinforce those talking points that you just experienced. So whether they're photo op moments or other types of demos, or other types of experiences as well. So just some examples here of how it all came together. It was very dynamic, very impactful. Of course, Salesforce has a really interesting kind of go-to-market strategy with the branding and so on, with the different iconography and some of the other elements with it.
Yes.
Great. So just to wrap things, as I called out in the beginning, we produce a report about every quarter. In fact, we have another report coming out in about 3 weeks, which is going to summarize some of the key trends with the gear. On the left-hand side, that will provide you access to the experience report. There's a landing page at freeman.com, a research landing page that provides access to all the reports are provided free of charge to the entire industry. We really want to help elevate the experience for everyone. And on the right-hand side, you'll see additional information and background with Smarts cool we can do partner together. On behalf of RSNA, Frequent and Sparks, we want to say thank you very much for joining us this morning. We hope you have a fantastic show, and happy to answer any questions or just touch on any of the trends. Thank you very much. Have a great day.